Hey there, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the third segment of our True Talk Thursday vodcast. We're going to continue the conversation with José Muñoz and Maria Armstrong to now discuss dollars and the funding that has impacted communities and the influence it has in community schools. So, Maria, take it away.
So, it just came out that the new administration, Jose, I don't know if you caught the quick feed that came out today that showed they're really looking at a $1.9 trillion package. And so, we start thinking about how much is going to be earmarked, obviously, for education. We've sat in meetings for the last few months talking about how do we promote and we know that community schools have the attention of the new administration. Sure. And so, and if I could just throw, a plug out there, a shout out, a hallelujah, or whatever it is, but we are so proud of our Alas Calas member, Dr. Miguel Cardona, as the new secretary appointee for nominee coming up here for this. That's right, for Secretary of Education. And so, folks that know school, right, that know community engagement and the power, like you say, that schools have to engage families. I mean, that was like the funnest part of my job. But I recall there would be folks, on the left and on the right, that they're like, for whatever reason, are fearful of engaging the parents. And it was like, if you don't know how, well, then we need to shore that up. But I always felt like they can be your greatest asset, ally, and game changer, you know? That's right. And so in knowing that we have this new administration that is really looking, under the microscope because of the great work that community schools have done, how do you see that being used as an influence? Like, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to with this new administration on those funding dollars?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, one, thank you to Alas, and thank you to all the other coalition steering committee members, the national intermediaries, our local folks, our folks in states, because together throughout the entire presidential campaign, together we raised community schools to the presidential platform. There were 4 candidates for the Democratic nominee that had community schools as part of their platform. And we're very fortunate and very blessed that one of them made it through. And we're so happy. we're happy. Now where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. Right. So together as a steering committee, for all to know, as a coalition, what we put together back in 2018 was a campaign to get ready for a campaign for 25,000 community schools by 2025. 25,000 community schools by 2025. How are we going to get there? So if you think about what we said earlier in this context of funding, where there's federal, state, local, philanthropic dollars going to places where young people need it most and their families, is Title I schools. So if you look at making every Title I school a community school, you could become more effective with that money, you could be more efficient with that money, and you could be more equitable with that money. Because from a community school context, with that money, it'd be co-designed with their community. It'd be with their community. So what we're looking for is put a number on it, at least $100,000 to at least $100,000 to put on for hire the coordinator for 25,000 community schools. You got your $2.5 billion. So the $2.5 billion for 25,000 community schools. There you go. The real work comes in as far as the quality. So not just that, but we need teacher professional development. We need higher teachers need to get paid. You're talking to a kid raised in a home with a teacher with 4 kids, and sometimes you're still hungry.
That's right. That's right.
Especially when you're an offensive lineman. With the teacher salary.
That's what I was gonna say. You're a grocery eating kid.
That's right. Right. But we're looking forward to. We're really thankful for the Biden administration coming in, the Biden-Harris administration coming in, and we're thankful for all the people that he's bringing on and hiring. We have very high hopes, which I put above optimism. It's just not, we think good things are going to happen. We hope, so we're going to work with them to make good things happen.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, really hopeful for that.
What do if we had a chance we have a chance right now to kind of frame for folks that the whole point of a community school, if you had to, just the elevator speech, if you will, right? The whole point of a community school versus a traditional school that we know that we're all familiar with, what would you say to folks who wanted to start that conversation within their communities? Like, what would be the thing that they need to take to that principal or take to that superintendent to start that conversation?
The tagline. Well, I always talk about community schools, about community design development. So we're making sure that every child is safe, that they're supported, and that they're successful in life. And to do that, we have to do it with one another. Yeah. So the first part of doing community schools, like I said, is with one another. So I would start there. I know the temptation is to say, you want to improve test scores. I know the jargon is, you want to be equitable.
Thank you. Catch-all. The catch-all word.
Yeah. The jargon, but we need a regenerative development process for generations to come to continue to evolve a community.
There you go.
Not just for this class, but for generations to come. And that's what community schools do.
Do you think that there's an impetus now due to the fact that, school is in pretty much everyone's living room now, right? Yeah. So parents have that, maybe were a little more distant from their traditional school. They've got a window that they've been able to peer into. And now they probably, as most families would, have their own notion about maybe what school can be. Do you think that because of this situation that we're in, that there's more impetus for people to want to engage in that kind of redesign that you're talking about? And if so, how does this whole online version of a community school play, or does it?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So what we've been hearing in the family engagement space and in the youth engagement space is two different things. So young people can't wait to be in place with each other. They say you can't recreate the hallway. One young person said, you can't recreate the hallway over a virtual platform. But what we've seen across, you've seen it too, when it comes to family engagement, it is like it's on steroids. Like, right? We can get in touch with people right away and they want to be in touch right back. We remove the barrier of place and time, travel, cooking for my kids, somebody to watch my kids. We remove that. Yeah. And so everybody's having the highest family engagement they've ever had. So I think we should continue to build upon that piece of it. Yeah. But I think it's something that goes said when people come in place together, young people especially, from what I'm hearing from them, and their social emotional health, not to use any jargon, but that's what I'm hearing from them. I think we're gonna have to still really emphasize the coming together of space. I think there's an appetite though to move one more place in that, in regards to how young people are engaged in place. Because of this past year we went through, there's a lot of social justice issues that we were facing. So more and more people, young people, are working collaboratively on platforms, and they are thirsting to work collaboratively in place. We saw some of this play out in this, more than just the classroom. In the title of this, we saw this play out with long-term funding with Census money as well too, within community school places. This past census, we had.
We kind of brushed over the whole census piece, but do you see that it has been interrupted, and that it, like, if you had to look in the crystal ball and you see coming out of what we just did, will there be an impact, or will there be implications based on the fact that we had a census during a pandemic year, right? Or at least the outset of the pandemic. So it's like, how will that come into the whole funding spectrum within our communities? And do you see, what do you see? What do you see in that crystal ball?
I think there's going to be some wrestling going on. Because, because, it's not just the pandemic.
Yeah.
But I'm scared to put something on paper because of racism.
Yeah.
I'm scared to put something on paper because of immigration. I'm scared to put anything on paper the past leading up to the census year, but especially during the census year, you get through the pandemic just made it hard to reach. But that's not as bad as fear.
And
people
fear
were
is
afraid
real.
to do something. People were afraid to do something. So what is that going to do? It's going to further negatively impact communities of color.
Yeah.
So I did see some light in that tunnel. So I think we do, in this, me bragging on community schools, and I'll brag even more in my new hometown, New Mexico, Albuquerque. So you had, of course, we have a good solid system, if I do say so myself, of community schools in Albuquerque and growing in New Mexico. Now, New Mexico as a whole, being a majority state, saw a decrease in the number of people who participated in the census. Within a zip code in Albuquerque, the community school coordinators band together and they saw a 6% increase.
Oh, wow.
And they compared that to other, what they call them, the hard to reach tracts. Mm-hmm. The hard to reach tracts who were hard to reach pretty much classifies that from the last census.
Yeah.
So just in short numbers wise, when we talk about money, so what they did was band together and they said, no, not us, not this community, not this time around.
I love it.
Not this time around.
Yeah.
So the coordinators organized themselves within that zip code and they increased their count by 6%, just under 5.9, something like that %. But number wise, it's like another 3,820 people. So calculate that by the 3,200.
There you go.
Per person. That's $12 million a year for the next 10 years, which is $122 million projected throughout the year. So imagine if every school as a community school came together and did that, throughout the state of New Mexico, we'd be looking at almost $500 billion, or $500 million, 400 something $1 million or something. but exactly. I would say proud of how they came together. So that's awesome. These are stories I like to highlight as the biggest chief cheerleader of the coalition for community schools.
Yeah.
It's like, when you get people to say, not this time around, not our community, we're going to band together.
That's how it's done. That is how it's done.
Yeah.
If there's anything you want to, because we're getting ready to wind down on this, sure. And I just wanted, if there's one quick story that you just gosh, I wish I could have said this about this particular community or a certain state that is just like you just did, New Mexico, but you're a little partial to New Mexico, and you just got back home, right? You were out here in DC for how long?
I was out in DC for 3 years. Just came back in August, but other places, yeah. New York State, they just organized for their brand new freshmen in Congress a great meeting to gather them around. You got Indiana, right, who pulled together some of their major partners who are typically in a normal setting competitors, but they band together to form a state coalition throughout Indiana, and they brought their state legislators together. Maryland, 85% poverty or not, guess what? You're funded as a community school. You got a community school coordinator. That's happening in Maryland. We see the calamity that California is in, where you're from. They just put $45 million in community schools. So this advocacy. I was just on the phone with Hawaii. I can't wait to go there. I haven't been there yet, but they're starting a state coalition in Hawaii, Texas. Texas community schools are growing across Texas. So we're seeing United Ways, universities, nonprofits, grassroots organizations, unions, school districts, cities, counties. It's more than a bandwagon right now.
And that's what I wanted to hear out of
We got a fan base.
There you go. And I really wanted to underscore that because, well, and just so that you know too, so that we do our little shameless plug here. You know, you talked about Hawaii coming on, and one of our ALAS members, and Christina Kishimoto, is out. She's the state secretary of ed out in Hawaii. She's going to be on next week with for our January education conclave on January 20th and 21st. We have a mini conference. Yes, it's on Inauguration Day, but it's in the latter part of the day, 3 p.m. And she's going to be a panelist. So she'll be a part of our plenary panel. And you're going to need to come in so we can, you know, make sure that we connect you, Jose. So then that way, you know, you got that first flight out there when everybody can fly out, but you'll get that flight out there. But
it's kind of like this though. Now community schools, I'm gonna play with Francois a little bit. It used to be like going to a Bills game because they were always losing. The stadium wasn't even half full. But now
you're talking about the Ravens.
Oh. I was trying to go there. Now the Bills are winning. The stadium's full. What up? You know, so.
Right.
And we can't end the night. We cannot end the night until I show this.
San Diego Superchargers. Oh, yeah. I tell you.
So, you know, I keep that in the closet. I blew off the dust for tonight. So just so that I could show you that, because no matter where I go, it will always be. And if anybody needs a cheerleader, it's my Chargers.
Go Bolts.
So with that, go Bolts. So with that, I just want to say, you know, thank you so much. That's right. Love thy neighbor, everybody. Make sure that you pass on the love, because that's all we've got. And with that, I just want to say thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure working with you these last few months, and hearing all the great things that you're doing with IEL and the whole community school family, because that's what it feels like. It is a family, and it's going to take a family to keep them springing up. So with that, we want to say we hope you all enjoy this vodcast, and tune in next Thursday because we're going to talk a little more politics. So with that, good night.
Good night. Thanks, Maria.
Hey there, and don't forget, if you like what you hear and want to gain some more insight into what school districts are facing now, then tune in every Thursday at 7 p.m. or subscribe below. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great night.